So let's set up the body. We're going to start from our feet and bring them directly underneath our hips. We want to get our ankle, knee, hip joint alignment. And then just feel centered and grounded with the feet. So you're balanced evenly on both feet, with the inside outside ball and the heel of the foot evenly pressed in, and just soft at the knee joints. We're going to start with some pelvic tilts. So just working to draw our tailbone down towards the heels, and then activating through the tummy muscles and start to squeeze the bottom. And then take it the other way, just create a gentle arch of the back as we draw the tailbone behind us. And then again, working to draw the tailbone down towards the floor as we activate the abdominals, start to squeeze the bum, to start to stretch the hip flexors, and then taking it the other way, gentle arch of the back. So we're just looking to start to get a bit of stretch in our hips with some good intention with that. Try not to push the knees forward, so just keeping that very soft bend of the knees. So looking to really isolate this stretch and length coming up our thighs into our hips, and then squeezing into the bottom, activating the tummy. And then we're going to get our pelvis as neutral as we can, which means we're working to get it a level front and back, working with just a small natural lumbar spine curve, or as close as we can get to that, and then bringing the length in through the rest of the spine. So lifting it between the shoulders, back of the neck, crown of the head is lengthening up towards the ceiling, encouraging our shoulders back just in line with the side of our hips, and then drawing them down the back as we stabilize through the scapula, and then just tucking the ribs in and down a little bit at the front. So we've got very good connection here, terrific connection at the back as well, and then chin draws in slightly, lifts, so our head and neck is balanced on our shoulders. And then once we've got that in place, we're just going to take a couple of moments to wake up our core muscles, isolating them. So I want to just take a natural breath in. As you breathe out, start to pull up through your pelvic floor muscles and start to wrap around your center. So you're going to imagine a corset wrapping around your middle, side to front, and wrapping around your middle splits to back as we start to really activate our deep corset muscles. And then work to hold that in your maximum tension. At the same time, you're going to be drawing up through your pelvic floor muscles from inside. Again, a maximum tension you can find there, and just hold on to that for a few moments. Just check in with the rest of the body. Keep it as relaxed as you can as you work to hold this neutral spine setup. Do natural breathing, so making sure we can really wake up these muscles, we can isolate them, and that we can breathe comfortably in that strong tension. Just for a couple more breaths, and then what we're going to do is make that a little bit more comfortable. So just release that tension around your middle and through your pelvic floor, about halfway. And then we're going to go a little bit more. So we aim for about 30% of our maximum tension. If we're not sure, just relax it and then just tighten a little bit around your center now. And if you can, that gentle drawing up of the pelvic floor muscles, where we're going to work to keep it, challenging it when we need to. So we're doing the exercises that we're going to do today. So let's keep that in place. Just practice a couple of breaths in and out. So we're going to breathe in through the nose. Feel our ribs expand, front, sides, and back. We're going to breathe out through the mouth and feel our ribs just naturally close in and down. As we keep everything else in place, just a steady flow in and out. Just breathing at your own pace, but just trying to feel this sort of ballooning outwards of your rib cage on your inhale, and the natural closing in and down on our exhale. We're going to try and keep that breathing going as we bring some movement in now. So we're just warming up a little standing. We're going to breathe in and bring our arms up to our shoulders. We're going to breathe out and reach up towards the ceiling, holding our neutral spine, and then breathing arms back to shoulders, breath out, arms back down by the sides. So as we breathe in again, bring arms to shoulders, breathe out. We're maybe going to feel a bit of length up the sides of the back through our lats, and obviously mobilizing through our shoulders. But at the same time, we want to stay very balanced in our setup. So we've got our neutral pelvis, our neutral level ribs. We're not allowing our ribs to lift if we can avoid it for now here. Keeping our shoulders gently dropping down the back as our arms are lifting. So our focus is being able to move our limbs and stabilize the spine with that gentle tension of the core muscles. Let's do one more. Breath in, breath out. We're reaching up. And then breath in, arms to shoulders, breath out, arms down. Next, we're going to squat. So we breathe in, we start to sink back and down. Just drawing our tailbone more towards the floor than to the back of the room. Keep a lengthened spine, knees behind the toes. And then breathing out, we hinge our spine back up as we find our neutral spine back at the top. So just being aware of our spine as we hinge gently forward. We may be having to work into our abdominals a little bit more as we really encourage a little bit more length through our lower back, especially if we're naturally a little bit more curvy through the lower spine. You want to feel like you're working into the tummy, lengthening between the mid-low back, still having rib hip connection through the front of the body. Our shoulders staying down, chest open, and that leg continues all the way into the back of the neck. And we're just going to keep our knees as far back in line with our ankles as we can, and then only squat as low as comfortable for you with them little technique points in place. Checking in, we're using our core, we're bracing, we're drawing up through the pelvic floor, and we're finding that strong position at the top as we mobilize through the knee joints, the hips, we're strengthening through the legs, and that's obviously warming up the lower half of the body nicely. So we're going to do one more breath in, and then breath out, we're coming up. Our knees are still soft, we're in neutral, and now we're going to roll that spine. So take a breath in. As you breathe out, start by tucking your chin and then drawing your rib cage down towards your hips, keeping your pelvis in neutral, using the abdominals for as long as you can. As we roll like wallpaper, peeling off a wall, we're going to work through the crown of our head down towards our feet. Bringing in them abdominals, supporting us, pelvic floor, keeping our weight balanced as we do our best to relax through the upper body, but feel the tension in the legs and the core muscles at the bottom as we breathe in and then breathe out and pull up through the tummy, through the pelvic floor muscles, stable with the legs, tucking our pelvis into neutral, stacking our ribs, then our shoulders, and then our head. Ready to go again. Breath in, breath out, tucking the chin first, drawing the ribs into us and down towards our hips. As our hips stay where they are, for as long as our mobility will allow. Now, as we start to roll through the hips, you might need to bend the knees a little bit more to take a bit of pressure off your back, and don't feel you need to roll all the way down. Find the lowest comfortable point for you. Do your best to take that tension out of the upper body. Take a breath in, and then breathe out and work to stack the spine back one vertebra at a time. Pelvis in neutral, then the ribs, shoulders, head. And then on the next one, we're going to transition down onto the mat. So take a breath in. As you breathe out, again, tucking through the chin, starting to roll. If you want to, you could gently circle your arms and your shoulders to bring a little bit of mobility into the shoulders here as we practice letting go through the head, neck and arms, but working them tummy muscles until we get to the bottom now, bending our knees, getting our hands flat, walking forward, lowering our knees down with control, continue walking forward with the arms until we've got a lengthened spine. Our knees are going to sit directly underneath our hip joints, and our wrists are going to sit underneath our shoulders, maybe slightly wider. The shoulders can sit a little bit further behind the wrists if that's more comfortable. And then we're going to drop our tummies and our rib cages towards the mat. Gently draw our shoulders down the back, a little bit of natural back extensor activation. But now pull through your belly button first. Start to draw the tailbone down towards the back of the knees. Eventually lifting through the rib cage, tucking our chin under into a full cat curl. And then we're going back through, dropping through the ribs, gently drawing our shoulders down the back, moving through the chest. If it's comfortable, don't hyperextend the neck, so keep a bit of length in the neck. And then starting by pulling up through the lower tummy. So we get that activation there, we get a bit more stretch and then through the mid-low back first. And then we're gradually coming into this cat curl. And then we're going to go back through the other way one more time each way. Just doing our best to stay balanced on these 4 points. Our arms are straight. And then again, that last time, getting a bit more mid-low back stretch first. Then we're going to find a neutral spine here for one exercise. We're focusing on hip extension here today. So draw the shoulders down the back, chin up into the front of the neck. We want to make sure our ribs are level and so is our pelvis. So we're in our neutral spine, but in this 4-point kneeling position. We're going to stabilize ourselves through the whole of the spine here and the scapular muscles in the arms. So brace around your middle, then corset muscles are active, pelvic floor, and then take a breath in. Staying centered, breathe out and slide your right leg away behind you. We're going to stretch it. Maybe you can start to lift it. We try not to move the spine at all. Breath in to come back down. Take the time, take extra breaths if you need to. Breathe out, slide your left leg away, stretch it from hip to toe. Add the lift, so we extend through the top of our thigh into our hip a little bit more, with our goal to be starting to activate through the back of the legs, the hamstrings, into our glute muscles if we can. So try not to let your tummy push down towards the mat or your tailbone to start to tilt up towards the ceiling. So our goal is complete stabilization. That can take practice, having good awareness of the body as best we can so we can get that best practice in. And then just create a steady flow. Try not to lean more to the opposite side, so keep more weighted through your right arm when you're stretching and extending this right leg away, finding that stretch of the thigh and into the hip. Let's do one more on the left, just stretching the leg, adding the lift, and then bringing it slowly down, and then taking a moment just to sit back towards our heels. Ease ourselves into a little stretch here as we then reach our arms up in front of us, and then a little bit of lifting and lowering of our hands off the mat, and breathing into the back. Just mobilize and loosen the wrists a little bit. Then bring the hands down, carry yourself out of that position, come round into a seated position. Take a moment to shuffle forward on your mat. So you want to bring your head to come down behind you. And then with the hands on the back of the thighs, bend the knees to get you as upright as you can on your sit bones. We're going to take a gentle roll down and lie down on the mats. So taking a breath in here. Breathe out. Just start by tucking your tailbone underneath you. And then start to draw your rib cage in and down through the front. So we're going to feel that abdominal activation. Get it as strong as you can. So that's your support. The legs will start to straighten out. And we're going to do our best to roll our spines down. If we need to, we can use the arms for a little bit of extra support. And then when we get to the bottom now, bend your knees, place your feet on the floor, setting the legs up in a right angle. So we've got just a small space between our feet and knees. Toes pointing away, hips coming towards us, and a nice bit of space between our feet and the bottom. Gently draw your shoulders down, lengthen through the back of your neck, so you're looking at the ceiling. Take some neck support if you feel you need that there, and to make your neck more comfortable. And then just start to rock your mat here. So we're going to gently imprint and flatten our backs into the mat, maybe create a little tilt of our tailbone, and then we're going the other way into a gentle arch of the back, create space between the back and the mat, and then working to press in, so we really feel a good connection through the whole of the back of the mat, and then taking it the other way into a gentle arch of the back. When we do this imprint of the spine, we're going to try not to imprint our feet into the floor as well. They're just resting on the floor. So that way we're really aware that we're not getting our legs involved. Right now we're just working into them abdominals, keeping our upper body as relaxed as we can. But now we're going to find a neutral pelvis. So we want to get this straight line. So it's actually level from belly button down to pelvic bone, not slightly tilted one way or the other. Level across our hips. And we might be able to actually find this point where we feel right in the back of our hips is balanced and pressed into the mat. And then we want to make sure, keeping that level pelvis, that we press and imprint our rib cage fully down into the mat as well. Then we're looking to have just this tiny 2-finger gap underneath where the natural pelvic lower spine is. We can snugly fit 2 fingers in there, but they shouldn't be able to move around. If we can't do that with flat rib cage and level pelvis, then you would need to tilt your pelvis a little bit to get a bit flatter. And then from here, as relaxed as we can, we're going to brace around our center, draw through our pelvic floor muscles, look to isolate that core as our dominant support to stabilize us, and then do a little bit of movement with the legs. So take a breath in, breathe out, float your right foot off the floor, knee just comes in line with the hip, shin in line with the ceiling, and then breath in, we bring it back down as we hold this neutral spine, and then breath out, floating our left leg up, knee in line with the hip, shin in line with the ceiling. So as we breathe in and lower again, maybe work here with the hands on the tummy for awareness. You're not allowing your tummy to push upwards or your back to arch off the mat. So we know we've got this strong support system. We're challenging them core muscles as much as we feel we need to give us that stability. And we're practicing that isolation of them, holding that in a neutral spine. So we're building really good balanced muscle work around our center. Keeping our neck and shoulders as relaxed as we can. Just feel the shoulders are drawing down your back and staying as light as we can on the leg, keeping the right angle of the leg. And the other thing we want to notice is if we're pushing out of the foot deeper into the mat when we lift the opposite one, try not to. So in practice, you really rely on the core and not on the support of the other leg to hold you in place. And then we're going to breathe and lower our left foot down one last time. We're going to breathe out and slide our right leg down the mat. So we're actually focused on getting a good stretch up our thigh into our hips. And then breathe in, slide that foot back, just giving your foot along the floor. Breathe out, slide your left leg away, find a real stretch point, but at the same time, I want to check you're holding your connection with the mat on that most extended position. So real strong opposition there. Practice being able to really stretch the leg, but still hold your connection with the mat. Find that balance point between the two. So we're getting a good bit of extension and stretch into our hip flexors, which is one of our goals today, is to think about good hip flexibility as well as the strength work. We're going to do one more on the left. So just stay in flow with the breath. Extended, stretching the left leg, and then coming back to the middle. If our hands are on the tummy, we're going to take them off, link our fingers together, bring our hands behind the head. And then supporting the weight of the neck, still keeping our pelvis very still. Take a breath in. As you breathe out, slowly curl your head and your shoulders off the mat until you're looking towards your thighs with space between the chin and chest. Breathe in, roll back down. Breathe out, just curling through the head and shoulders, taking enough support for the neck that you're not putting any tension in or minimal tension. You don't want to feel like you're pulling it though. And work to roll from your upper back through our thoracic spine for it. So top of the shoulder blades down to the bottom of the shoulder blades. And our pelvis sits very stable at the bottom there. So we're trying not to do a pelvic tilt as part of an ab curl. Keep good balanced work down around that pelvis area. Pelvic floor muscles are drawing up as part of our stability, and at the moment our legs are relaxed. And then we're going to hold it up on the next one. So we breathe out to come up. We're trying our best to get right to the bottom of the scapula, just off the mat. Then take a breath in with strong core tension. Breathe out, bring your right leg back to tabletop. Take another breath in, and then breathe out and bring your left leg up to that tabletop position as well now if you can. And then hold it for a few moments as you continue to just try and lift those shoulders a little bit more if they're dropping. Continue to work your breaths and your corset muscles or your dominant support around the center there. Pelvic floor muscles are drawing up. So you can have the option to stay with the legs up and the head and shoulders up and bring your arms on by your sides, or you can bring one foot back onto the floor and you can bring your head back down onto the floor. And we're going to pump them arms for 100. So we breathe in, 2, 3, 4, 5, and out. 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. So holding very stable. Working our breaths. Keep going, I'll show you your variations. If the head is down, just make sure your ribs stay flat on the mat. And like I said, you can have one foot on the floor here, but try and keep going, keep the arms pumping, keep working the core. You could even bring both feet down at any point if you need it. So layering it up and down to suit you. One more breath in and out here. And then draw your knees into your chest, release your head down. Place one hand on each knee and gently circle your legs around in your hip joints. So now we're bringing some hip mobility in after they've worked there, whilst they're warm, loosening them off. And we're going to reverse them leg circles and take them the other way to release the hips a little bit more. But now gluing our legs together, gentle roll around with our mat. So we release any tension buildup. And then gentle roll of the lower back down on the mat in the opposite direction. Place your feet on the floor, extend your legs down your mat, take your arms above the head, and take a stretch through your body from top to bottom, reaching through to our fingers, down to our toes, encouraging that good stretch up our hips. Okay, spin that tension and roll over onto your on our front, we're just going to be working with hip extension again here for a moment. So have your arms in a comfortable position for you. Maybe you'll want to rest your forehead on your hands, tuck your shoulders down your back and tuck your ribs underneath you. Or place the arms at the sides, whatever works best for you. But get them shoulders tucked and ribs under, and bringing the feet together so we know where they are. Take a tiny little step out by the side so the hip width distance apart. We're going to start by pelvic tilting on our front to get a bit more hip stretch and get a good position for the spine. So take a breath in. As you breathe out, pull up through your belly button. Pull your tailbone down towards your hips. And feel your hip stretch and see if you can squeeze your bottom. And then we breathe in. We allow the tummy to push deeper back into the mat and the tailbones tilt upwards. And then breathe out, pull up through your belly button. Draw your tailbone down, look to stretch the hips, and just see if you can start to squeeze the bum. So we're trying not to actually hoist our hips up off the mat. We're trying to stretch them and almost feel like the top of the thighs and hips are pressing in, and we're squeezing the bum, and then we know we're really getting that pelvic tilt isolation. Now we're going to find a neutral pelvis, again, as close to neutral as we can get, lengthening through the back, feeling we've got our rib connection through the front, and then making sure we're working these muscles around our center and drawing up through our pelvic floor. Now, without letting your belly button push any flatter into the mat, take a breath in, and as you breathe out, stretch your right leg away behind you with maybe a little bit of lift. And then breathe in, release it back down. Breathe out, stretch your left leg behind you from hip to toe. And again, without letting the belly button press any flatter into the mat. Breathe into that one. Breathe out. So it might be a really small movement. Our hips are pretty much fully extended, and if our hips are tight and we're naturally a little bit more curvy through the lower back, then you might not be getting a very much movement at all. But just thinking about feeling the stretch up the thigh into the hip, activating the muscles in the back of the leg and the bottom, and then stabilization of the spine. We shouldn't be feeling any discomfort in our lower backs. So to make sure that you can do all this work without any discomfort in your lower spine, your core muscles can support you. And then we can try double legs. So breath in to lower the left foot. Breathe out, stretch both legs away behind you. The tension is going to increase into the legs in the back there and up into the bottom. Breath into lower. Breath out. Do your best not to tense your upper body when you're doing those double leg stretches. And again, obviously being very aware of that belly button area, that we're not allowing it to press deeper into the mat. There's our opposition to get more hip stretch, to get more glute activation. Let's do one more. Breath out to stretch the legs and then slowly release them down. Okay, we're going to come straight back over onto our backs. So rolling back over. When we get there this time though, we're going to tuck our feet a little bit closer to our bottoms. So ankles sitting underneath the knees, but still working to get good ankle, knee, hip joint alignment. Just tuck the shoulders gently back down the back, arms relaxed by the sides. We're going to get the rib cage flat on the mat again. We're going to start with this neutral level pelvis position as well. And then with our upper body very relaxed, we're going to do a shoulder bridge. So we're coming straight back into the glutes, back and the legs. And again, working with that hip extension as our main goal today. So take a breath in, breathe out. We go from this neutral to a flat back, imprinting the spine. Now we're pushing our feet into the mat. We're going to very slowly peel our lower back off the mat. So I want you to try and keep your ribs flat down for as long as you possibly can, while stretching up your thighs into your hips first of all, starting to squeeze our bums as soon as we can. Don't worry if you can't do that straight away. It will come with practice. Maybe the tension in the thighs will be more dominant to start with. And then you just go as high as you can into your bridge, no higher than the armpits though, and your ribs should stay lower than your hips, so we're not lifting from the rib cage. Take a breath in at the top, and then breathe out. We're going to slowly roll our spines back down onto the mat, really curl through the back. So you get a nice bit of lumbar mobility there as we roll, imprint, and come back through to neutral. Ready to go again. Take a breath in. As you breathe out, core muscles are engaged. We imprint the spine, push our feet into the mat. We're balanced on our feet as we start to peel vertebrae by vertebrae. If you imagine your knees are sort of being pulled away from you, diagonally towards the ceiling. So your goal is to stretch up them thighs into the hips, but not allow them ribs to lift us up. So maybe you'll even need to work the ribs a little bit lower to stop you going more into your lower back, and to help you get more into the top of the legs and into the bum. And then breath in at the top, breath out, slowly roll back through, vertebrae by vertebrae. Core is challenged through the stability of that as we roll, imprint, and come through to neutral. Well done. One more time, breath in, breath out, neutral to flat back, having a good awareness of our connection with the mat. And the soles of the feet, that connection there. So balanced, watch your knees aren't bowing outwards. Obviously, we don't go any pain in the knees, so don't force any movement that causes discomfort in the knee joints. But do try and feel the tension and stretch up your thighs Tuck your tailbone like you're trying to tuck up into the back of your knees and squeeze your bottom. Take a breath in there and breathe out and slowly roll your spine back down vertebrae by vertebrae onto the mat. And then we're just going to hold it up for the last one and challenge into the glutes a bit more and into that hip stretch a bit more. So breath in, breath out, neutral to flat back. We're peeling off the mat. We're finding our hip stretch. We're checking our ribs are lower than our hips. Remember to have that even bit lower if you need to stay out of your lower back so much. But then breath in, breath out. We pelvic tilt. So we're tucking, we're squeezing into our bottom a little bit more. Breathe and release, just a tiny amount. Breathe out, tuck and squeeze like we're gripping a coin in the crease where the leg turns into the bottom. Breathe and release a tiny bit. Breathe out, squeeze. So we're tilting the pelvis rather than pushing the pelvis up towards the ceiling. That way we get more hip extension, we get more kind of activation. Yeah, it's going to feel a little bit tougher than if we're just pushing everything upwards. We're isolating the muscles a little bit more here today, as our goal is to stretch them hips more and really work the glutes. Last one, take a breath in, breath out, hold on to that glute tension for as long as you can as you roll your spine vertebrae by vertebrae back down into the mat, imprinting that spine at the bottom, and then release it as we come through to neutral. Draw your knees into your chest straight away, and that's going to release your bottom and the back of your legs, hugging the knees in there. And you can try straightening the legs a little bit here as well, and give the back of the legs a little bit of just a stretch out there. And then bend the knees again and gently roll your legs around in your hips. You're going to do that just once each way. Put your legs together, roll your lower back around on your mat, just once each way. And then place your feet on the floor, roll yourself over all the way back into all fours. So we're going to give the back a little bit of a stretch out, and then we're going to stretch the front of the hips out as well. So in our 4-point lily position, just start by drawing up through your tummy, tucking your tailbone, and gradually rounding your spine. Once we're in this cat-cow position, just hold on to it for a moment, rock back a little bit towards your heels, rock forward towards the wrists again, and see if you can just get a little bit extra stretch and length through that mid-low back as we pull up through our tummies that little bit more and tuck our tailbones under, and we try to pull it down towards the back of the knees. Come to the middle, walk yourself up onto your knees, and bring one leg out in front of you. Your knee stays behind your toe on your other leg there, and then we're stacked on our knee with our hip on this leg. Then we're going to do our pelvic tilt here, just like we've been doing in our bridge. Just tucking and squeezing into the bottom until we feel this tension pull up the leg. Once we've fully tucked and maybe feeling some tension in the bottom, but still not feeling a strong stretch or feeling we can take it further, just drive the hip diagonally forward down towards your mat, and that will help you deepen that hip stretch. But try not to sort of drop into that lower back and feel any tension in the lower back when you're doing it. And then release that side, and we will swap it over for the other side. So just taking the time to find a balance, give yourself space between the front knee and toe. Do your best to align the back foot and then stack yourself on that knee with your hip. Coming into this pelvic tilt, in until we feel the stretch come into the hip and squeezing at the bottom. We can lock that into place and feel actually we can drive that hip a bit further. We can start to deepen that hip flexor stretch a little bit more. Excellent, well done. And now from there, bring your knee back down, bring your hands down, tuck your shoulders down into your back gently, and tuck your toes underneath you, lifting your knees, pushing back towards the heels. So we come into this downward dog position, encouraging a stretch at the back of the legs and a bit of length through our spines. And then working our way back, bending the knees as much as you need to, till we're grounded through the feet, supported by the legs and the core, as we gently roll our spines back up and into our standing position. Take a little stretch there, reaching your arms up to the ceiling, then gently soften through your knees, soften through your hips, let the arms swing a little bit, and give your body a little shake out to finish. Great job.